Councilmember Seekings. Here. Councilmember Shade. Councilmember Griffin. Councilmember Moody. Councilwoman Jackson. Here. Mayor Tecklenburg.
Here. Now, if you would like to join us, Councilwoman Jackson will lead us in a prayer and pledge of allegiance.
Yes. Thank you for joining me. God, we lift you up in this assembly of your citizens and those who lead us. We pray that you will be with us each minute of the hours as they proceed. Help us to make wise decisions, to listen carefully, to enjoy the company of our community, and to celebrate in your presence and by your wisdom all the effort and energy that is brought here on behalf of our staff and our citizens in this great city of Charleston. We thank you for this weather as it's turned into the spring season that we each enjoy and appreciate and long for after a long cold winter. We ask that you would be blessed each of the families who have lost loved ones to tragedy over the last few weeks since we have convened, and we pray for your protection. We ask all these things in your holy name.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. In the most unlikely event that we would need to exit the building, we have these two main exits from the chambers here, and there's one exit door to my room to the right. And in that unlikely event, I would ask you not to use the elevator, but to use the two stairs going down and then the one stair out the front. Very unlikely, but just want everybody to be aware if they had to get out of the building, that's how we get out. Next, I'd like to share some sad news, and we already had remarks about former First Lady Barbara Bush, her passing. What a wonderful woman, and part of that story is that she was a student right here in Charleston, South Carolina at Ashley Hall School. But very sadly, I heard the news this morning, and many of you may have, that Robert Ballard passed away last night. And he was, I'm going to read a little synopsis of all the things that he did. He and his wife Sally were residents of Radcliffe Borough for almost 40 years, and Robert was a steward not only of Warren Street but of the entire neighborhood. He had a 35-year career with the county and served a variety of leadership roles, but mostly we all know him for the many roles he played here in the city of Charleston as president of Radcliffe Borough Neighborhood Association, actually becoming the president emeritus. He served for so long. He was a member of our city's Town and Gown Committee, a member of the city's Board of Adjustments and Appeals, helped start the Peninsula Consortium, one of the most effective neighborhood advocacy organizations in our city. He was interested in any and all issues pertaining to the city's quality of life, its development, its college, the infrastructure challenges. He attended, I mean, you saw him everywhere, every public meeting, zoning, BAR, city council, he was everywhere. He was such an interested and devoted citizen to the city of Charleston. He researched subjects, he always knew his stuff. There was never a topic impacting our city and the peninsula that Robert didn't weigh in on. He was the recipient of the 2001 Harold Kuhn Award and was said about the award's namesake, his leadership and ability to create a sense of pride for his neighbors was outstanding, and that was true of Robert Ballard as well. So if I may ask council and the chambers to give us about a few seconds, moments of silence in memory of Robert Ballard, a truly great Charleston citizen. Amen. Thank you very much. So I would like to call a few folks to come to the podium with me, and I'll call a few names, but anyone here regarding Bike Month and Bike Safety Month, including Savannah Brennan with Charleston Moves, Tom Bradford, Also with Charleston Moves, Sean Flood with Gotcha Bike, Mrs. Jenkins and her daughters, Ms. Jenkins, the president of North Central Neighborhood Association, Rachel Stubbs with North Central, Bennett Jones with Enough Pie, Betsy LaForce with Coastal Conservation League. Will y'all all come forward and please stand with me? Thanks for being with us tonight. Good to see you. Hey, how's it going? Yeah. And Keith Benjamin, our Director of Traffic and Transportation, is with us. And I'm just going to give this to one person in the middle. It's a proclamation regarding Bike Month and bike safety in the city of Charleston. Whereas safe and convenient transportation for all users, no matter of their race, age, income, gender, or location, is a priority of the city of Charleston. And whereas thousands of Charlestonians will experience the joys of bicycling during the month of May, and whereas in 2003, after passage of their Complete Streets Resolution, South Carolina Department of Transportation encouraged South Carolina counties and municipalities to make bicycling and pedestrian improvements an integral part of their transportation planning and programming, and we're certainly working on that. And whereas on August 19th, 2008, City of Charleston adopted a Complete Streets Resolution, and whereas from 2009 to 13, the City of Charleston had the highest growth rate in the United States in bicycling at 73%. Whereas the concerns for safety of all modes of transportation within the public right-of-way have increased for our city and region. Unfortunately, we don't have a stellar track record in terms of accidents in our region. And for example, between 2015 and 2017 in the city of Charleston, there were unfortunately 510 injuries and 14 deaths related to pedestrian and bicycle accidents. 43% of these accidents involved African Americans, which make up 25% of our population. And whereas creating bicycle-friendly communities has been shown to improve citizens' health and quality of life, boost community spirit, improve traffic safety, and reduce pollution and congestion. Additionally, the education of bicyclists and motorists as to the proper and safe operation of bicycles is important to ensure the safety and comfort of all users. And whereas I urge all who support bicycling to participate in various activities during National Bike Month and Bike Safety Month put on by Enough Pie, Charleston Moves, and all these organizations and neighborhoods that you see represented here this evening, I urge all who support bicycling to participate in these various activities. Now, therefore, I, John J. Tecklenburg, Mayor of the City of Charleston, on behalf of the Charleston City Council, do hereby proclaim May 2018 as National Bike Month and Bike Safety Month in the City of Charleston. So congratulations, and thank you for your efforts to make our city safer. So I don't think I'll ask you all to come forward, but do y'all have a representative, maybe Charleston Moves, who would like to make a few remarks? Please come forward. Savannah.
Yes, I'm Savannah Brennan. I'm the Director of Programming with Charleston Moves. I would just like to thank Mayor Tecklenburg and all members of Council for acknowledging Bike Month and Bike Safety Month. This year for Bike Month, we have partnered with Enough Pie and all these wonderful partners to create a really wonderful program throughout May, and we invite you all to participate in that. And as you all know, Charleston Moves works year-round to make our streets safer and better connected for those who walk and ride a bike. So we are very excited to be partnering with the city moving forward and look forward to more collaboration and investment to realize that mission. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Savannah. Appreciate it very much. Go on. Anybody else want to say anything? Y'all good?
Yeah.
After you. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Sean Flood. I'm the CEO of the Gotch Group, who operates our Holy Spokes bike share system. I wanted to first thank the mayor and council for your support to bring bike share. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Councilmember Mike Seekings, who thought of bike share long before Gotcha arrived in Charleston. But we're now at a year since bike share launched in Charleston. I wanted to give you a few really key facts. one, something to be proud of. We build all of our bikes here in Charleston, South Carolina that go across the country. An American-made bike is something we're very proud of. In a year, we have had 40,000 trips on the 250 bikes on the peninsula. We have 11,000 members who are riding those bikes. In that period of time, we've burned 3.5 million calories. And so if you haven't ridden a bike, it's very, very healthy. So you should get out there and do that. We've burned 78,000 pounds of CO2. And we've saved the residents of Charleston over $52,000 riding a bike versus driving a car. I think that those are amazing stats and something that the city should be very proud of. The last part is this has been a true partnership with the city, our partner MUSC, who is our title partner, groups like Charleston Moves and Enough Pie. And the last thing I'll say, we're very proud that we have just rolled out a program that makes bike share affordable to everybody. Bike share is about equality and providing a mode of transit for everybody. So launching this month, we'll have our Just Ride program, offering bike share for as little as $5, providing up to 2 hours of free time for members of our low and moderate income. So I think that's just the beginning, and I thank everybody for their support of bike share in Charleston.
Great. Perfect. That's great. Anybody else? Tom? You good? All right. Hey, young lady, thank you for being with us. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am. They're doing a remarkable job, and as is our department head, Keith Benjamin, and soon we'll be coming to our Traffic and Transportation Committee with our official bike ped plan that's been approved by another committee, and it's coming to council soon for official approval. So we're really working hard on the issue of bike safety in the city of Charleston. So next, it's my real pleasure to bring to you someone who needs no introduction, along with Michael Moore, who's the President and Chief Executive Officer. And before I do want to invite everyone, all the council members and the public, that this Saturday at 10:30 a.m. at Charleston Waterfront Park, everybody knows where Waterfront Park is, we will be officially rededicating the park in honor of former Mayor Joe Riley and dedicating the park as the Joe Riley Waterfront Park. And I'm so excited about that. So you might believe that one of the greatest legacies of Mayor Riley's service to our community was in fact the establishment of the Waterfront Park. And certainly it was a very difficult thing, and it's among the many big accomplishments that he endeavored in. But I believe in the long run, when we're all gone and they write the history books, that the real legacy will be Mayor Riley's proposal to open in Charleston an international African American museum, and that's what he's going to talk to us about. Mayor Joe Riley and Michael Moore.
Mayor Tecklenburg and members of the City Council, thank you so much for the invitation to come here and to brief you on our project, and thank you really for your steadfast support over these many years. Before we're going to show a brief 3-minute video that will kind of capture the essence of what we're doing. But before we do that, I want to make 2 quick acknowledgments. First, to reiterate what Mayor Tecklenburg said, is just to really thank Mayor Riley for, in his retirement, for the hard work, the tremendous work that he's doing to make this happen. And so thank you to Mayor Riley. And then also I want to acknowledge Wilbur Johnson, who chairs our board and just gives us an enormous wellspring of wise counsel and support in moving forward. We've got some tremendous momentum to talk about, but before I do that, we just want to play this brief video.
I I am Barbados.
I am Senegal.
I am Togo.
I am an American.
The IAAM is a new museum of African American history and identity. The IAAM experience will communicate the largely overlooked history of African Americans in the Low Country, in South Carolina, and the nation, to explain how this population is indelibly woven into the fabric of the complete American story.
In my view, one of the greatest casualties of the period of enslavement is the fact that the Africans who were brought here and sort of current day African Americans, our history, our sense of history, understanding where we came from, what our culture was, what our language was, that was all whitewashed away.
48.1% of all of the African slaves that came to the United States entered this country through Charleston. So blackness, black culture, the African experience, the African American experience, slavery, however you want to slice it, this is ground zero.
So to have a museum on the spot where enslaved people came through just helps to frame the African American experience in this country in a way that I believe will be just extraordinarily uplifting.
It was important that that history be presented, and also so important for us to honor those who were brought here in chains in the bottom ships, who they and their families helped build this community and build our country.
I absolutely believe this will be one of the most important sites, museums, memorials in the entire country because of the intersection of history, of location. I think about Ellis Island, and I have friends whose families came through there, and I've seen, just what that means to them, and I've always felt a little, disconnected from that because I don't have any history there. Well, here's the opportunity for people of African American descent to have that kind of a connection.
We're always aware, if we choose to be, of the ghosts and echoes of an almost inexpressibly wise past. And I think what the museum does is say, let's learn our history. We can both feel this stultifying prison that slavery obviously is, and at the same time be uplifted knowing that we have appealed to the better angels of our nature.
I am Ghana. I am Liberia.
I am Angola. I am an American.
So we really have a unique and very, very powerful opportunity. We are building an African American history museum on the spot largely where African American history began. And as I mentioned, we've got lots of momentum on that. We are pulling together. We've got a world-class team externally. We've got a world-class team that we're building internally. Our architects, our architect of record is a firm, Moody & Nolan, the largest African-American architecture firm in the country. Our design architects, a firm in New York, Pay Cobb Freed. You may be familiar with I.M. Pay. His partner, Harry Cobb, is our primary point of contact there. Our exhibit designer is Ralph Applebaum and Associates. They are the premier museum exhibit designers in the world. They did the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. They did the Holocaust Museum, the Visitor Center at the United States Capitol. They're now working on developing the Obama Library, did the Clinton Library, and so we're benefiting from all of the expertise that they bring to bear on creating the museum experience. Our landscape architect is a gentleman, Walter Hood, born in Charlotte, now is connected through Cal Berkeley, is in Oakland, and has built amazing installations all around the world. And so the frame that goes around the building will be one that's both beautiful and also rich with interpretation and history. Internally, over the summer, we had an opportunity to hire a woman, Marion Gill, who is our Vice President of Museum Planning and Operations. She brings 30-plus years of experience from the Smithsonian, including 8 years driving the growth and development of the Smithsonian African American Museum to us here, and she's been wonderful. We've hired our chief curator, a woman by the name of Joy Bivens, who is coming to us as chief of curatorial affairs from the Chicago History Museum. She will be on the ground mid-June, and we are in the process now of hiring our head of education and engagement, which will be a critical role. So we're working hard. We've got great momentum, as I say, and we are working to make this a museum, a place that will shine brightly on this city, on this state, and on the nation. So let me turn it over to Mayor Riley now.
Thank you very much, Michael. And if I could begin, thank you, Mayor Tecklenburg, for your kind words. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, members of City Council, for the wonderful work you're doing for our city. I see it from a different vantage point now, and it's even more impressive, and the amount of work that you're doing is even more daunting. So congratulations to you. And if I may just briefly echo what Mayor Tecklenburg said about Robert Ballard. He was a quintessential citizen, community leader, neighborhood leader, giver, helper, doer, and I join in expressing sadness at his unexpected and untimely death. I'll talk to you briefly this afternoon about the momentum of the private fundraising, of which we are very proud. As you may have seen in this morning's paper, we announced the $1 million gift from BMW. We are currently only about $2 million short of our $25 million fundraising goal, and we have many proposals out there to corporations and foundations that are very positive. So we will continue to receive private donations, and we will keep at that. We will move to building an endowment when we've got the money raised for the museum, and it's all very positive. Just a few examples of the fundraising success. Our largest gift was a $10 million gift from the Eli Lilly Endowment. That is headquartered in Indianapolis, obviously no connection to Charleston of South Carolina. So this huge gift bespeaks the understanding of this premier endowment / foundation on the national significance of what all of us are working together to create here. That $10 million, a little over half of it goes to the Founders Fund construction, and then the rest of the funds, a little operating, but most of it to help set up $4 million, and begin our endowment with $4 million. We have received major contributions from other national and international funders, including Johnson Controls, headquartered in Milwaukee, Ford Foundation, Mellon Foundation, Kresge Foundation, the Gilda and Public Foundations. From corporations, Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, SunTrust, BB&T, TD Bank, Synovus, South State, First Citizens. South Carolina linked corporations include Blackbaud, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Michelin, Spalding Palazzi Foundation, Boeing, AT&T, Speedwell Foundation, Denny's, and the Post and Courier Foundation. And then very generous donations from individuals, including Anita Zucker, Darla Moore, Carolyn Hunter, Michael Bennett, Marva Smalls, John and Jill Charleston, Ed Sellers, and Susan Boyd, Bill and Deborah Kennedy, the Pearlstein family, and there are others that we'll be announcing in the near future, as well as I said, other proposals that are in place. So we're really have made tremendous progress towards our goal of raising the $25 million and then working to get the museum under construction. I would like to commend Edmund Most and the capital projects team with whom we work and who will be managing the construction of the museum. It's an outstanding team and supported by staff here. So we look forward to being back with you with further information later on this year, and then hopefully towards the middle or end of this year, all together as we break ground on the construction of one of the most significant institutions in our country, the International African American Museum. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mayor Riley and Michael and Wilbur. And Jenny Deeren has been on the team as well, helping secure these funds. It's not just positive, it's exciting, Mayor. And we're just excited to get this project going, and we're this close. We're over 90% there, and just in the next few weeks, I believe, or next month or so, we're going to get over the finish line to get started. Okay, so one other announcement, I think maybe I do want to thank our fire department, Chief Roberts, for putting on Fire Ops 101, where he invited council this past Saturday to find out what it really takes to be a fireman. Councilmember Seekings and Griffin and Shealy were there along with myself. For the first time in my life, I got to use the jaws of life to cut off a car door off of a car. It was a lot of fun, and we really appreciate all the training and hard work, and the fact that you and our firefighters are willing to risk their life each and every day in the service you give our city. So thank you, Chief Roberts, and all of our firemen. Okay, so
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I hate to go back, but I'd like to go back, and obviously a lot of kudos have gone around, but to thank Mayor Riley and his team, Wilbur, obviously Michael, the board of the IM, and all the volunteers, Jenny, heavy lifting. I mean, what we're seeing in progress right now is American exceptionalism. And you're right, we are right there. Small, middle, and large, as the city representative on the IM, as you and I and Councilman Moody on the Gilliard Corporation, we know the goodness of the Gilliard Corporation. We know the goodness of what the IM is doing. And right now, that excitement is just wonderful for all of us to share. And I just thank you all for pulling this together and taking the time, because, I mean, they're crisscrossing the country doing this. So thank you so much for coming and presenting this to our city council and our city at large. Thank you, Mayor Riley and all.
Thank you. Oh, I forgot one more announcement. Every quarter we have a quarterly breakfast commending our great employees, particularly when they're commended for customer service. It's our customer service initiative, and it's also marks years of service for employees that have been with the city for a while. Now, sometimes council members can't make this breakfast. It'll be this Thursday. So I want to call Council Member Gary White to come to the podium, please, and receive your 10-year pin for 10 years of service to the city of Charleston. Would you like to address your fellow councilmen?
Thank you very much. And I actually thought about this not too long ago, that I've been on council for 10 years. I didn't realize that I got the special pin, but I'm glad I did. But I think that there's other council members here who've obviously gotten a little bit longer than I have, but I'll be in chasing you there, Councilman Lewis. But anyway, thank you all very much. It's been a great 10 years.
All right, so next we have a number of public hearings. I think we have 8 of them tonight, and Mr. Morgan from our planning department will be making some announcements. The first one regards 651 Meeting Street. Mr. Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is an item, you all are familiar, I think, with this location along Meeting Street. It's immediately adjacent to the older SC&G trolley barn that's now the home of the American College of the Building Arts. It's across the street from the Meeting Street Academy. We have some other images of the site. Here you can see the site. It's a kind of historic shell of a building here. It's adjacent to Poinsett Street. And here is an image, the American College of the Building Arts and the trolley barn to the left, and the subject property to the right. Here's Poinsett Street further to the right. And of course, in our comprehensive plan, which we use for all our recommendations to you all, it does show as our urban core area. Because of that, our staff felt comfortable recommending for the rezoning from general business to MU1 workforce housing. And Planning Commission has also recommended for this change.
All right, and for all the public hearings that we have tonight, I would respectfully ask if folks could keep their comments to 2 minutes, please. Would anyone like to be heard on this matter? Please come forward, state your name and address to the microphone. Yes, sir. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Hobie Orton, represent the developer for this property. Thank you for your time and consideration this evening. We have a unique opportunity, we believe, to repair and restore a building next to the College of Building Arts that's been blighted and in bad shape for over 30 years, and to provide a small amount of housing that'll help accommodate the students of the American Building Arts. It's a kind of unique opportunity to complete the campus, complete the vision, and we as a third party are excited about the opportunity to do this for the College of Building Arts. So thank you very much for the consideration.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to be heard? Hearing none, it comes to council. Councilmember Mitchell.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is the district I represent. And I was going to ask to have this deferred. But in lieu of that, I might ask this to give it first reading. But before second and third reading, I would like the developers to go back out to a lady that they might not want to go to, which is Ms. Jenkins, and she had some problems so far as working out if you're going to do both developments at the same time, because you have also purchased the lot on the corner of Romney and Meeting, and you also have this particular project. And she want to make sure that you're not going to tear up the community by having both of these projects going on at the same time. And that's one thing she wants to know. And so you need to reach back out to her and then give her those information, because I spoke to her today for almost an hour. Every time I call her, she speak to me for an hour. So, you know, we had some problems with Poinsett Street. She had some various problems because I know it's only 2 or 3 houses still on Poinsett Street, and she had some problems with the traffic going to be coming through there, how it's going to relate to the people that's living there, that was living there for years. And I told her that I know it's going to be approved some way, and something is going to be done there, but you know, we still have to look out for community standpoint. So I hope even if this is approved, when it's finished and done with, that they're going to make sure that they look at these particular homeowners that's in that area that was there for these period of time and years. And that's one thing I'm really adamant about, and I think the gentleman will know that the way I am when it comes to community. You know, so I would ask my colleague just to give it first reading, but before we come back to second and third reading, you know, you meet with her, and then she'll get back with me, and we'll get back together, and we go from that point. I'm good. A motion, yeah.
Actually, my portion was during the public hearing. I wanted to hear from the good general, but I just wanted to make sure that there's a tie between, he's done such a wonderful job with the School of the Building Arts, a tie between that building and dormitory for actual students for the college. Is that the connection that's going to be? I know it's going a little bit in reverse, but we kind of jumped to the council before I had a chance to. And thank you for what you're doing.
I wasn't sure I needed to come up, Councilman. It seemed like, Councilman Mitchell's been carrying the heavy water here. Look, like the momentum that the former mayor talked about, we got a lot of momentum going. This completes, if this works, the vision that was approved by council about 4 years ago. The other developer sold it to another developer. This is the dormitories that we need to complete the program. You may know we had our accreditation visit last week. We'll get the results in November, but I feel very good about that. We've been talking about that for years. Recruiting's going well. I can't report enough the support. One of the commendations last week was the community outreach that the college does in all kinds of areas, from Drayton Hall to the Philip Simmons gates that we made for the new park there, and all those kinds of things. We're doing everything we can to be a part of this community and educate young artisans to keep what the vision was that put this college together.
Thank you, Jim. I've seen that firsthand, so I'm sure the concern of Councilmember Mitchell, if you involved along with the developer, those concerns will be addressed.
Well, we're going to be the next door neighbor to that, and we want to own it someday, so we want it done right. This is just the first step, Councilman.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Gregory.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I also thought that when we approved the project, while we understood that it would be dormitory housing, we also tied it to affordable units. Student housing is not necessarily affordable, but if I'm not mistaken, we placed on the agreement that whatever is done there, there would be some units specifically that are affordable to folks in the community. Did I get that wrong?
I honestly don't remember.
I do.
So but no. We'll check that, and we will. And I think the council knows I've tried to live up to every agreement which we have made.
Yes, sir. The zoning we're requesting is MU workforce, so we'll have to provide workforce housing or meet the threshold. So whether it's dormitory or apartments, it's essentially multifamily living, and we'll have to comply with the regulations that set that meet the average median income as such. So, yes, sir.
And our definition of affordability?
Yes, sir. The duration, your definition, but it's per the MU workforce zoning, so it's nothing out of the ordinary. Just we'll have to comply with those rules established by you. So, thank you.
Yeah, we have to change it.
So we had, as it's been alluded, that when we originally did this deal, that the contemplation was always for dormitory housing on this site. It's gone through two hands now, and hopefully that will be the outcome. But my question is that we're now in the process of rezoning it from GB to MU workforce. Is that could this parcel not have already been developed under GB for a dormitory? If it was always the plan, was it always expected we're going to have to change the zoning? Because effectively what we're doing is we're getting ready to upzone this in a fairly significant way from a density standpoint for housing on this site. And so I just want to make sure that if we go through this exercise, we're doing it because it's something we had to do, but was it not always in the game plan that the zoning would have to change? Or?
And Mr. White, you can do a dormitory in general business, but the type of housing I think that they want to do on this, which are individual units, they each have a kitchen, that kind of thing, that's not really necessarily a dormitory, and so they would need to have the density on the site to allow for those types of units. And those are very common now around colleges. You're seeing them built around the downtown where they are independent living situations, because it would be my assumption there's probably not going to be a cafeteria, for example, at the campus, so everybody would need their own kitchens and living rooms and things like that.
So in general, maybe you can answer this, do you all have an agreement with this developer that they will be providing you all a certain number of these units for the purposes of student housing?
That's correct.
Okay.
Just misspoke. We're rezoning it now to MU workforce, so the new requirements would apply. Sorry about that. Anyone else who would like to be heard? Hearing none, all in favor of first reading, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Councilmember Lewis.
I just voted nay. I don't vote for that on that project.
I'm sorry. Nay.
I said I voted nay, yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Moore.
Okay, yes, sir. Okay, our next item is at the intersection of Meeting Street and Line Street and Shepherd Street. The image is before you here. Here is Line Street running east and west, Meeting Street north and south, the former Shepherd Street right-of-way here, the on-ramp or entry ramp of I-26 into downtown Charleston at Meeting Street is right here. And the request is to zone some other parcels that adjoin a larger group of parcels that are already MU2 workforce housing in blue. These are in blue. This would be in addition to that MU2 workforce housing on these two parcels here on Line Street, and then there would be standard MU2 on the former right-of-way of Shepherd Street and some of the parcels that were former DOT land that were zoned light industrial and general business. And staff has been comfortable with the MU2 up here because the larger site and the bulk of the site is going to be MU2 workforce housing, and this also relates to previous requests from the city that the developer work to acquire this right-of-way and this former SCDOT property here to make this project a more cohesive project for the community here. And so those parcels would be MU2, and the remainder of the site would be MU2 workforce housing. And both staff and Planning Commission recommend approval. I believe we have a couple of pictures of the site. AAA storage is a lot of what you are commonly known as right now on the site. There is the image. Here's the Shepherd Street right-of-way. Here's the Meeting Street on-ramp and the subject parcel here. And some of the houses that front on Meeting Street. These are not actually, I'm sorry, these are the parcels in here. The frontage on Meeting Street is over here, and these are subject parcels here.
All right. Would anyone like to be heard on this matter? Please come forward. Mr. Gow, good to see you.
Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you. I'm Richard Gow with LS3P, representing East Line LLC. Thank you for hearing. This is a place where density should occur. We've worked on many projects in the city where people didn't want density, and they said when you do density, it should go there. This is at the gateway of Charleston. Tens and thousands of cars come to this doorstep into the city every single day, and we need something really handsome. The project is at BAR right now. It will include the renovation of 7 historic homes, a historic train shed, and the main thing really is that the land that Shepherd Street was and the DOT will become a city park that will be dedicated by the developer after its improvement to help connect people that want to bike and pedestrianize over the Ravenel Bridge from the low line. And so this is really in the middle of the nexus of the Highway 26, Highway 17 interchange, the city street network that we all use, and this low line network. There's really only one nexus like this in the city, and it deserves to be dense. It's very walkable. It has a great walk score, and we would like your support. It sailed through Planning Commission, but this body's more important. We would like your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to be heard on this matter? Seeing none, it comes to council. Councilmember Jackson and Mitchell.
Back to me again, Councilmember. This property is in the district I represent. Everything is here in the district I represent, all of them anyway. And I met with with LS3P, and we went over all the items that was going to be placed on this property. And I wanted to make sure that the impact of the community was not going to be impacted as much that they have to be, it's going to affect them, so to speak. So I know they met with Ellie Barty Cannonbar, and I also tell them to meet with the East Side Development Corporation, because they're right across the street. The East Side is right across the street from that particular property, and it might not affect them, but it can impact them to a sense because they're so close. So that's another thing. They're going to meet with the community on that too. And they're also going to, you have some historical houses there. They're going to move one from Shepherd Street back to Meeting Street and renovate that and put that back as housing too. And the only thing we have to get back to together on it to see what type of the rent of these units. I spoke with him about that, or what kind of rental that's going to be on this property, to see if something is going to be really affordable for some of the people here to be able to utilize in the particular area. So they're working on that too, so they're going to get back with me on that. So I'm working with them on that. So even if, like I say, even if the first reading is done, we still got the second and third reading to go through before this takes place, that we have all these questions and answers also.
All right, sir. Councilmember Jackson, then Lewis.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. I do want to support this project. I think that in my work life, having come to Charleston in support of the National Trust for Historic Preservation, and there were many times when the city had to make hard decisions about not approving properties for redevelopment that made sense to the investors that were going into those properties, but really didn't make sense from a context of who our city is. And so I do agree with the gentleman who just represented the developer to say that this truly is a gateway. I think we have created a place here by relocating the Ravenel Bridge that visitors, thousands, millions of people come every year and see this part of Charleston that I know the neighborhoods themselves have long wanted to be improved and made more representative of who they are as a community. So I would fully support this at first reading, and I do look forward to understanding how we can make it a more truly mixed income, affordable adventure. I do worry about the constraints of the workforce housing income ranges. I know that there are many people in Charleston who don't even meet that eligibility criteria. So hopefully out of the Community Development Committee and some of our other public subsidies, we might be able to make this much more of a full holistic range of income. Thank you.
Councilmember Lewis, did you want to be recognized?
I just want to thank the developer because the last 20 years or so, I consider that is a corridor of shame for people coming to the city of Charleston, coming down off 26. So I applaud the developer for taking over that project and hopefully to make that corridor a better looking place for the city of Charleston.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Hearing none, all in favor of first reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Number 3, Mr. Morgan. Now this item has been, 3 and 4 have been requested to be deferred by the applicant, but we will continue and at least have the public hearing since they've been advertised. Councilmember Griffin. Okay, well I had,
30 seconds.
Can you just be heard at the beginning of this next matter? We're getting ready to start another one right up. Yes, sir. Mr. Morgan.
So again, these are deferred, but the applicant is requesting a rezoning from general business to, excuse me, from limited business and general business to MU1 workforce housing at the corner here. This is the corner of Cannon Street and President Street. Our new city drainage project has a key shaft that goes down into the tunnels at this location that would not be built on, and any development on the site would go adjacent to that. We have some images here. There would also be an amendment to the Old City Height District from the 2.5, 3.5 story restrictions right now to a 4-story restriction in the Old City Height District. That is a separate request for this property that has also been deferred. Here's an aerial image of the site. It's currently, well, this is an earlier image before our drainage project began. It was a parking lot. Now there's construction activity with a drainage shaft going in right here at the corner. And here you see a street view of the property.
All right. Mr. Hamilton, would you like to be heard?
I just wanted, we were speaking about a number of things in that area of Line Street. That is also the end of the bus rapid transit line that will run from Somerville to Charleston. And the day will come when tens of thousands of people a day will go through that area to walk into the city, bike into the city, or to transfer to another mode of transportation. And while it's hard to imagine now, it will be our grand central station for downtown Charleston, and having a park nearby that gives people a place to rest and wait will be important. So making that whole area work for pedestrians, for people making a transfer, different modes of transportation, will be very important.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. So would anybody like to be heard on the matter of the corner of President and Cannon Street? We're not taking any action on this tonight. It's been deferred, but we had advertised a public hearing. If anybody wants to be heard, they may.
Mayor, if we would just tell them it's number 3 and 4.
Number 3 and 4 on the agenda. Anybody like to be heard? Yes, sir. Right now, we've got a construction site there because we're drilling a shaft as part of our drainage tunnel system, which will remain under permanent easement to the city. But we had traded this property with a gentleman on another matter, and he'll be developing the rest of the property when we get out of the way. Councilmember Seekings.
So that just before we go forward, just that the get out of the way part is what I was interested in. I see that the applicant is us. Are we transferring this over when the project is done? Is that what's happening?
I believe the development would occur after a transfer. Ms. Cantwell, I think, is coming up to the microphone.
Can you go to the next picture that shows the actual aerial? Keep going. Yeah, okay.
That one?
Thanks.
Yeah.
So we own that whole site? That's all that currently is City of Charleston property?
That's right. And the transfer, if the transfer occurs prior to our finishing construction on the shaft, we will maintain a temporary construction easement over the entire site. So whether they hold the fee so they can get their financing going, but the city will not have to move until we're finished construction.
Just one more question while we've got you there. Is there a development agreement between us and the city, or is...
That was part of a settlement agreement we did relating to DeReef Park.
Okay, so I got it. I know this is...
Can we get a motion?
We're not taking action.
I know, but we're deferring.
Motion to defer.
Motion to defer number 3 and 4. Okay, from Councilmember Seekings. We have a second. Okay, Councilmember Waring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Morgan, you said the applicant asked for deferral. Who is the applicant?
The applicant is, it's a ownership group. I know a local key person in that group is Chris Phillips.
So in other words, the applicant was not the city.
Right. In other words, we own the land at present. He has a contract to purchase the land from the city. Yeah. Or receive the land from the city.
Did someone else want to be heard? Councilmember Moody?
Yeah, I was just a little confused with exactly what was going on here with the DeReef Park. This is a settlement. And my initial reaction was, okay, the city's got this property. Is this some place that we could put some affordable housing? It's going to workforce housing. Is this something we could put some workforce housing?
No, we've already approved the deal.
In return for this property, the city was swapped out the Shiloh Church property in 2 pieces of land.
Okay, that's what I didn't understand.
Right.
What the connection was to the site. Okay, all right.
I'm Waring.
Council lady, please don't, I got another question. As part of that agreement was a rezoning?
No, no.
Right. So he's bringing the rezoning request and the height request forward. And in fact, this would be the first height change request we've had by way of a rezoning since we put our new height by stories scheme into effect. Okay. All right. So we have a motion to defer. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? On numbers 3 and 4 deferred. Number 5.
Okay, and that is 999 Morrison Drive, which the city also owns. And of course, that's the future home of the Digital Corridor Flagship 3. The property is currently zoned general business and also governed by the Tech Corridor Overlay. And as design has progressed and design concepts have progressed on this site, the determination has been made that the height district would be better benefited on the site for the type of building that would be constructed to be our 8-story Old City district, which would allow for both the parking garage and the office structures that would be on the site. And so it's a rezoning to that Old City district and also removed from the Tech Corridor Overlay because that allows for 5 stories. And the staff and Planning Commission recommended for this approval. It was just at Planning Commission last last week and is moving forward to you for your vote.
Would anyone like to be heard on this matter? Seeing none, it comes to council.
Move for approval.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion?
Second reading. This is second reading. Just so you know.
This is a second reading, yes. Councilmember Jackson.
I just had a question. I don't know if it's ready to talk about it in public, or should we have a plan for how this property will be developed under the proposed rezone? Is there a contract in place?
I think Ms. Cantwell can speak to the contractual issues.
Yeah, there's a lease in place that specifies the development.
The city owns the land, has it under a long-term lease with the Digital Corridor Foundation. Pursuant to that lease, they have to use it from a certain percentage, a certain floor of it for incubator tech space. The rest of it has to, first call goes to tech companies. There is a proviso that council approved just recently that if they have difficulty marketing, showing good faith, having tried to find the tech companies and they can't, then we would consider opening it up to other ventures. But by contract, they will require to put tech front and foremost.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this was.
Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Mitchell been seeking.
This was done a couple of years ago, dealing with the digital corridor, since they are moving, as you know, from East Bay Street. And we approved this years ago, even with the height limits, it's going to be higher in that area, even given incentive to some developers that we do thus and so. And I also added in that area for affordable housing, truly affordable housing, I added that too, what they're going to do in that particular area when we start revitalizing that area.
Councilmember
That's another district I represent too. All that's the district.
It's happening. Just very briefly, I remember when we rezoned this, and then we rezoned the North Morrison Drive area.
Right.
Is there any reason why we wouldn't just include this as an opt-in to the North Morrison zoning?
I think because of the nature of the city owning the property and our ability to get what we want to see on this site through our lease and agreements with the developers on the site, it was not as critical that we have the Upper Peninsula zoning on the site. And it has some criteria that might not have worked with some of the aspects of the development.
And it's right adjacent to it. We know what they're going to be tech anyway, right?
Yeah.
So we're just going to put a hard height on it rather than have some flexibility that the Upper Peninsula zone.
Correct. Instead of earning your height above 4 stories, it will be just an 8-story district.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Second reading. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Now for third reading and ratification. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Mr. Morgan, number 6.
Number 6, and this is a property on Johns Island off Zelasco Road. We had recently annexed a number of properties in this area and zoned them business park, and this is now an additional parcel being brought in that has frontage on Zelasco Road, also for zoning as a business park. Both staff and Planning Commission recommend approval.
Would anyone like to be heard on this matter? Seeing none, it comes before council. We got a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? All in I was looking at Councilmember Wagner. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Okay. Number 7 is an amendment to the zoning code that would change the minimum lot frontage requirements for new lots in the mixed-use workforce housing district. So in other words, those districts that are in the very urban core of the city, instead of requiring more of our suburban kind of frontage requirements for individual lots of 50 feet or 30 feet or something like that, there would not be a minimum. We think it makes sense in these very intense areas of the city that you could have lots of less than a suburban width. And both staff and Planning Commission recommend approval of this change.
Would anyone like to be heard on this matter? Seeing none, it comes before council.
Move for approval.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Number 8.
Okay, and this is relatively minor amendments to an existing planned unit development on Maybank Highway at the intersection of St. John's Woods Parkway on Johns Island. And here you have Maybank running roughly east-west, St. John's Woods Parkway here. There's an existing storage facility here and an office building at the front of the property. I think we've got some images. The PUD amendment would allow for a shifting of the road that is on the property, the access road that's presently here, to a location a little bit further away from the intersection, which we think makes a lot more sense. It would also have a two-story climate-controlled storage facility added to the site, then the provision that would require an upper floor of a building to have residential in it would be removed. It could be office space or residential or commercial space. So relatively minor changes. It still is basically a commercial PUD of limited scale that's in line with both our Johns Island plan and I think recommendations from Charleston County as well.
Would anyone like to be heard on this matter? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Trenton Walker, 66 Hazel Street, here on behalf of the applicant. As Christopher said, it's a minor tweak of the existing PUD. The only reason we have to come back is that the original PUD required residential on two buildings that may be built there. They're small buildings. They can be no more than 9,000 square feet total. And the idea was to have the alternative of having office up there. Since there's so much residential on Johns Island, maybe we could have another place where people could work. So it changes it so it could be residential or office on the second floor. And as Christopher said, it also allows the phasing of the new access off St. John's Parkway to move it back further from the intersection when the development of either parcel B or C is started. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to be heard? Hearing none, it comes before council. Got a motion to approve in a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have the approval of our city council minutes from March 26.
Move for approval.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion, changes, deletions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next is our citizens participation period, and we only have about 10 people signed up, so in keeping with the public hearing limit, if I could ask everyone to keep your remarks to 2 minutes, that would be great. Madam Clerk, would you call the list?
Yes. Muhammad Idris, Angela Washington, Paige McCormick, and Peggy Welty.
Evening, Mayor, City Council. 2015 was the year the roof came off of the city of Charleston. On April 1st, 2015, 2 homicide cops came to a meeting of Minister Alliance and told them that the reason the police cannot help the citizen in the poor community was because they, the citizen, do not come forward and report crimes to them when they see a crime. On April 4th, 2015, a police officer shot an unarmed man in the back 5 times, and a citizen videoed the criminal act by a law enforcement person. On June 17, Darlene storm roof went into Mother Emanuel Church on Calhoun Street and killed 9 worshipers while they were in Bible study. On September the 30th, Mayor Keith Summy said he is the devil we know. On October 1st through 5th, 2015, the hurricane Joe Goon came and brought with it the worst flood in this area in 1,000 years, excuse me. And this hurricane came at the time our former mayor, Joseph P. Riley, was to celebrate his 40 years of disservices to our holy city. These things should be reflected on by you who are the leaders of our city when you are trying to make decisions. And I bring this to you this evening to remind you that freedom is marginal and the space must be shared. I've heard some things in this council, but the night took the cake. But as the Bible says, when you lie, you'll steal, and you steal, you'll kill. And you all are some crooked people. Thank you.
Please state your name.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Angela Washington. I am a member of Charity Mission Baptist Church, and I'm also a member of Cajun. And I know firsthand about the affordable housing crisis in Charleston. After 4 years of waiting on a waiting list, for public housing, I moved into the Gatson Green housing development in downtown, May 2015. My apartment is disgusting. My house is roach infested. I've got neighbors who come have the same issue, and they also have varmints. I also just want to add that I've been working in the field of food and beverage and the hospitality field for 20-something plus years, and I just don't understand why there isn't a workforce for people that's in the hospitality field, because of the fact that Charleston is a tourist city. And what I do and the rest of the people that work in food and beverage, it's because we enjoy it, but we can't afford to live in Charleston. I work downtown Charleston. I should be able to live downtown Charleston. So I'm asking you, Mayor Tecklenburg, and City Council, if you could join me on April 30th to the Nehemiah Action, so you can show us residents of downtown Charleston and the rest of the community that you are concerned about affordable housing.
Thanks. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Paige McCormick. I am a parishioner at Blessed Sacrament Church in West Ashley, and I am also a member of Cajun. Over 211,000 families in Charleston County can't afford to live here. A minimum wage worker puts in 110 hours per week to afford a basic 2-bedroom apartment. That would be 16 hours a day of working. People can't afford to live downtown, they can't afford to live in Mount Pleasant, and they can't afford to live anywhere in the Charleston area. We have a regional problem. The 2014 Housing Needs Assessment from the City of Charleston, North Charleston, Town of Mount Pleasant, and the county stated, if the housing issues facing the region are ignored, residents will continue to migrate to the outskirts of our region. This has happened to our community. This is the cause of our traffic congestion. This is why so many workers have long commute times. We need to approach this from a regional perspective because it is a regional problem. On April 30th, your constituents call you to come to our Nehemiah Action. We urge you to come and let your constituents see where you stand on funding affordable housing. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Peggy Welty, and I'm a member of Circular Congregational Church and a major of Cajun. Mayor Tecklenburg and Council, we applaud the steps you have taken to provide affordable housing. When we look at the local municipalities that are leading the way, you have taken good first steps. The $20 million bond issue was a good first step, but that in and of itself is not enough to solve the problem. Mayor Tecklenburg, in your 2017 State of the City address, you stated it's clear that housing affordability is a regional issue at crisis level and we must use every tool at our disposal and work with all partners to provide more affordable housing products in the Charleston region. We ask you, Mr. Mayor, and all of you on City Council to come to the Nehemiah Action on April 30th to put more tools in our toolbox. 4 years ago, a housing needs assessment called for a coordinated effort, which never happened. It is beyond time to begin that coordinated effort. Thank you.
Ann Birdseye, Alice Wakefield, William Hamilton, and Skylin Lighton.
Good afternoon. My name is Ann Birdseye. I'm a member of Circular Congregational Church and the Charleston Area Justice Ministry. Mayor Tecklenburg, in your 2018 State of the City address, you referenced your 2016 address where you said, quote, "I asked you, our citizens, to join us in a new kind of civic partnership. I asked you to get involved, to volunteer, to go to meetings, to join boards and commissions, and to make your voices heard. Put simply, I invited you as citizens to take your rightful seat at the table here in our city and to demand more of us as your elected representatives," unquote. We accept that invitation, Mayor. We have taken our rightful seat at the table, Mayor Tecklenburg, and we hope that you are willing to act on your own words. It's hard to see how you can both call for civic engagement and choose not to attend the largest citizen gathering in the community. Your first invitation was sent December 2017. I urge you to change your mind and to attend the Cajun Nehemiah Action on Monday, April 30th at 7 p.m. at Mount Moriah Baptist Church. We thank Council members Waring, Gregory, Lewis, Jackson, and Shealy, along with the 3 RSVPs that we have received from the Charleston Police Department for confirming your attendance. To the other council members, we urge you to confirm your attendance. The people of this community deserve your presence. Thank you.
I have never been able to see well enough to drive a car. And when I was 18 years old in Mount Pleasant, wanted to go to the Piccolo Spoleto finale in 1978, I called SE&G to find out if I could get there by bus. I rode all the way out from Hobcaw to Coleman Boulevard, waited an hour for the ILOP bus, which blew past my bus stop because I was white and no white people rode the bus in Mount Pleasant in 1978. Thankfully, a lot do today. And I've been on a lot of bus rides yet, but the bus I didn't get to that day was the number 20 King Street Citadel. And I've always sort of felt cheated that I never got to ride to a great festival on the number 20. And so we have created one in the great tradition of taking the things that Charleston has and putting them together into something wonderful. On the 12th of May, we will join 5 great community events in Charleston with one wonderful bus line. Those are, of course, the Farmers Market in the morning, Awakening Motion, which is about alternative transportation, the Greek Festival, the Conchaco Bar Crawl for our food and beverage workers, and finally the night market. All of this is also connected by the internet. It's a way to show people what one bus route, which we have running now, which is free through the efforts of the city and many generous people, can do for the city so that we can build out from there to the bus rapid transit system that will liberate the city from the curse of too many automobiles and give everyone, the poor, the working class, the disabled, the elderly, the young, the mobility that will make this city truly a great place to be.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor Tecklenburg, City Council members. Thank you so much. My name is Skylin Landry. I'm a community organizer and advocate with various organizations. I've worked with groups such as Girls Rock Charleston, which is now the Carolina Youth Action Project, the first alternative to incarceration program in the state of South Carolina for youth, as well as We Are Family, which we are looking forward to opening up the thrift store and community drop-in center to help alleviate some of the youth homelessness that we see on our streets. But today I'm joining Mr. William Hamilton to talk to you about the need for public transportation in our city, along with the affordable housing crisis that we're seeing becoming more of a problem. The food and bev workers, the service industry, hospitality workers, they are hurting. I was out all morning talking to various people from restaurants to clothing stores to other boutiques, and the people are hurting on every level. They are increasingly spending their small amounts of income to just get here and park. And we need to come up with better solutions. More comprehensive public transit across the Tri-County area is one way to do that. And I hope you will direct your attention to some of the great events we have coming up. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Alice Wakefield, I passed.
Thank you, Ms. Wakefield. Would anyone else like to be heard? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Y'all doing a fantastic job. And my name is Arthur Lawrence, Westside Neighborhood Association President Emeritus. You know, we work hard with the city and our community to make it one of the best community in the city of Charleston. And we work closely with the West Edge, and they built a fantastic facility by the Joe. But, you know, I support green space, and they destroy the green space in between the two streets on Fishburne Street, completely destroyed all the way around to the police department. And they already beautified their area. And that area in front of the Joe, all the way to Haggard Avenue, it's a shame. It's a gateway to the West Side Neighborhood Association.
The median?
Yes, sir, the median. And it's a gateway to the West Side Neighborhood Association. And it's a shame for when people come into the baseball games, moving in, they see that blighted area that was green space before and gonna pay $1,800 a month for rent across the street, and coming into the neighborhood where houses are no longer at $250,000, it's $450,000 and up, and you don't have a green space in the middle. It's a bad idea, and if they want to continue to work with the West Side, they need to complete this area right away. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you all, citizens, for being here and participating. Next, we have our petitions and communications, and I would respectfully ask for council's approval on the appointment of our new fire chief, Dan Curia. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next was our approval on Board of Zoning Appeals. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, Councilmember Waring, could I recognize you regarding the next matter?
I'm going to ask that be deferred. I understand as the mayor is working on potentially an exciting opportunity for the whole city. So I'm going to ask that this be deferred if it's okay.
Sir. Thank you very much. All right, so that brings us to our council committee reports. First is Committee on Public Works. Councilmember Waring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You'll see three, I believe it's three acceptance and dedication of rights of way. All those passed unanimous in our committee meeting, but there is a little bit adjustments to some of the wording on those easements that needs to be done by our legal staff. I will move for approval with those improvements by our legal staff.
Yeah, I see our council nodding her head. Yes, she will add those changes. So we have a motion to approve and a second. Councilmember Moody.
I'm going to recuse myself on item 4. That's my house, so I don't want to.
We talked about that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you want to pay me for it, I'll be glad to do something, get a raise, but I'm just giving it. But,
God
He's
bless
given
you.
it, and that's why it took us so long to deliberate on that one. It was free.
All right, any other discussion, comment?
On his report?
No, that's on those free items. There's another part on the report that I'll discuss.
Okay.
On those easements.
On
Right
those
now, that's my
easements.
motion right now, on the easements.
We're voting,
If they're four items. Right, four.
let's have a motion to approve.
Not the full report. Right now, I'm AI 2, 3, and 4.
Okay, that's all of item A.
All of item A.
All right.
That's correct. All in favor of item A, all those 1 through 4.
With the exception of the improvement.
And we have one recusal. Yeah. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, with one recusal on 4. Okay, now to B.
On the remainder of the report, we had an update on Church Creek Basin from Ms. Cabanis, and I don't know whether, if she'd come forward to see whether any remainder council have any information or questions on that. Councilmember Griffin.
Maybe Mr. Wilbert can tell us too about the new committee that's being formed.
So you want me to start? So we got a couple of things coming up. We're continuing to work on the regulations. We are scheduling members to invite council members in small groups so we can have some time where we can talk about what those regulations are and answer any questions you might have, and also get feedback from you. We've also put together a Church Creek task force that will be meeting in the second week, about 2 weeks from now. And that's, again, it's another citizens committee plus some council members. We've asked Councilmember Shealy and Councilmember Griffin to also help us appoint a citizen, and we've got engineers on that board so that we can get feedback, hear, what people think about what's being proposed and how we're moving forward.
Any other questions? Okay.
Any other questions on the update of the Church Creek Basin? And we also had an update on the status of the FEMA buyouts.
Sure. So we had 2 meetings last week and invited those that are included in the buyouts. They've been provided a handbook. They naturally have some questions that we're also getting some clarifications for them. We have a team of about 4 people from Tetra Tech that are assisting in the buyouts. One of those people will actually be located at 2 George. They're a caseworker, basically, so that we can deal individually with homeowners as we move through the process.
Councilmember Shealy.
Can I ask for an update on our grant writer for Church Creek?
Yeah, it's not just for Church Creek, it's for, so we going through the application, so we will start the interview process probably within the next couple weeks.
So no more questions on the FEMA buyout status. The last thing, we had a very good hearty discussion, I think all the committee would agree, on discussion of a moratorium on Johns Island, centering on drainage. And this is why. There are several things that we're going about updating our whole drainage criteria and manual. That is being done, I guess Ms. Cabinets don't go too far, that's being done by a company called ACOM, I believe. And that process is maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more than a year away. But our best practices are definitely being put in place, but not all in place as yet. In the meantime, we have new applications coming in. And the discussion centered around what other applications that are not in the pipeline right now should come under the new criteria, because that's going to be better for all. Better for the city, better for the end buyer, hopefully better for the developer. But in the meantime, and I'll give you a couple of examples. Right now, our road bed, for example, in the city of Charleston requires, I believe, about a 6.5-foot elevation. So that means if you have a piece of land that's 6 foot and the street that you're going to build is 6.5 feet, then obviously you got a problem with, and our lots have to drain towards the road right now. If that were to go 7 feet, what effects that will have? Right now that'll be studied, and whether that should be part of the criteria or not is to be decided. In the county, we have a FEMA requirement that if the county says you need to build a FEMA +2. In the city, 2 feet. In the city, that requirement is FEMA +1. Should we agree with the county? Should we disagree with the county? All that will be vetted out. You know, when it comes to bringing in sand with type fill law, there's some other best practices around the country that we need to consider that aren't a part of our criteria right now. That is something that it's vital for Church Creek, but it's also vital for Johns Island. And the mayor made mention about the criteria potentially being in a 100-year floodplain and getting that criteria with our engineering and our legal department to come up with a proposal, hopefully that can come before council within a 2-week period. What we don't want is people to race to our developers, quite frankly, to race to our planning department to get grandfathered in front of these new potential criteria that would be better for all. So, Mr. Mayor.
I would just reiterate that to have those new requirements in place where flooding has occurred or is likely to occur is a very wise thing. And it's really the model that this council followed in putting in place the moratorium in the Church Creek drainage basin. We chose specifically the 100-year floodplain to disallow development to occur until we're able to make reasonable changes to our requirements, and we will be bringing to you in the month of May as well. And so the same logic really applies to Johns Island, with maybe the complication or the added factor that in addition to be a riverine, I'm learning these new words, riverine flood basin, that it's also a matter of looking at surge if in the event surge would occur. So it's tidal impacted in addition to drainage impacted, if that makes sense. So we're going to pull out the maps and come up with a proposal for council that will make sense and be reasonable to deter development in those sensitive areas until we can adjust our requirements and make them a little more stringent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yeah, I would agree with everything that's been said. I do think the community, the city citizens are asking of us to make these hard decisions. I definitely want to position James Island on this list. We have vulnerable areas. I mean, I can take you around to newer developments now that are built under the existing standards that all of the surrounding neighborhoods were lower down than the new developments are living in fear, essentially, of what's going to happen the next time we have a flood event in their neighborhood. So I don't think there's any difference in terms of being a sea island. For James Island, yes, we've had a lot of development there that has taken all the high ground, but what's left are low-lying areas. And I think we're just as vulnerable there as we would be on what's left of Johns and what's left in Church Creek. So whatever happens, I want to put James Island on the list. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Wagner, then Lewis.
I make it kind of quick. During our conversations yesterday, we did discuss possibly looking at Dr. Johnston's work and maybe finding a way to incorporate it. To me, it is as simple as it is very low over there. It may or may not be in the floodplain. It may or may not meet other criteria that we've used in the past. But to me, it's as simple as me wanting to build my yard up 2 feet so I can have a wonderful flower bed. What did that just do to my neighbors when it rains? And it's really that simple, the way he has explained it. Okay, if everybody here is at 5 feet, you have to come up 2 feet to meet our criteria. Everybody else gets wet. And so I would like to make sure that we look at the latest technology. the tidal flow, which is a large part of Dr. Dunstan's work. And he has volunteered pretty much his time and effort here. Because I think we're going to have a problem with one that was just passed through the Planning Commission the other day. Because of the very reason I've just explained. We're going up here, but they built here. And so, you know, they're complaining, and rightfully so. I would, just like you would. So on that front, we need to make real sure that that's in there. I don't know if a 100-year plan will work, because we just had a 1,000-year flood, according to, you know, the state of South Carolina. And so that wouldn't have worked out real well for us, you know. So I think we really need to hone in on where we want to go, and let's only have to do this one time. Mark would be a big part of this, I would think. So he's the expert, and so I would let's take a look at everything, including how high our pipes have to be to run drainage. Because if we tell them they got to be above ground by a foot, guess what? We just added about 2 feet. So I mean, you know, there's a whole lot going on here at one time, and we got to hone in and get it right. And that would be for the whole city. Because Carol, Gary, my districts, we're at the last frontier. I mean, we have the only open ground left. Or any real ground. And to even District 10 has some open ground, but not thousands and thousands of acres. So let's just, I just ask that we get it right. And it might be 2 weeks, it might be 4, but let's just get it right.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Hugh and King, any discussion on that? Drainage problem?
No, there wasn't any discussion on that, but my understanding is that we're still working on that one. So, I mean, it was on the agenda last meeting, but believe me, it's right at the forefront. We're not going to forget about Eugene King. So, stay tuned for some update on that next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Councilman Lewis.
Thank you for the report. I don't know.
No, it was just for discussion. But one thing I'd like to say is I'd like to thank Mr. Mark Wolpert. This is a team approach, Councilman Wagner. I think it's some of the best minds coming forward. And the criteria, when done, is going to apply to the whole city, not just Church Creek or Johns Island or the like. It's going to apply to James Island and Ken Hoy area and those large tracts of lands that Councilman Wagner spoke about.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Wagner, for bringing this to your committee. It was very timely. Thank you. Councilmember Gregory, Committee on Recreation.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Drainage is public enemy number one, and it is, in fact, a livability issue. And long term, hopefully we'll continue to try to improve livability. But as I speak of livability, there are some things that we can do right now to improve the livability of the citizens, and especially our children. We have created the medical mile. All of our campuses are smoke-free. All of our public buildings are smoke-free. As a city, we're now a blue zone city. And, well, we're getting there. And there are some recommendations in their reports that talk specifically about things that we can do right now. And one of those things that we can do right now is to make our public spaces, particularly our parks, smoke-free. On yesterday at our Recreation Committee meeting, we looked at an ordinance that was presented to us. And that ordinance is proposed to prohibit smoking in public parks. We did offer a couple of amendments, and those amendments are reflected in the ordinance that was left on our desk. And the amendments were simple. The first amendment was to make sure that this does not go into effect until January 2019. The second amendment had to do with identifying designated smoking places. And we're going to wait for recommendations from the Recreation Commission to determine exactly where those designated spaces will be. After the amendments, the Recreation Committee overwhelmingly passed the ordinance, and I would recommend to this body that we continue to protect the livability by voting yea on making sure that we prohibit smoking in our parks.
Thank you very much. It was we have a motion and a second. It was unanimous at the committee level. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Next, our Committee on Traffic and Transportation. Councilmember Seeking.
Mr. Mayor, the Committee on Traffic and Transportation met today at 3:30. We began with a moment of silence and remembrance of Robert Ballard, who was a regular attendee of Traffic and Transportation Committees, but more importantly, was a tireless advocate for mobility and transit. And interestingly, and Robert had many interesting dimensions, he lived in the city of Charleston and transported all over, and he was seen in many places. He never owned a car. He never drove a car. So amazing man. So we began with a moment of silence in honor of him and moved forward from there. We had a great update from our Director of Traffic and Transportation, Mr. Benjamin. Ms. Jackson, Councilmember Jackson, talked about safety on our streets. We agreed as a committee, and Mayor, you led this, that if no one's going to do anything about the safety of our streets, we got to own it, and we're going to do that, and we're going to do everything that we can moving forward to encourage the DOT and the county to join in us to make our streets safer. We had one report from Mr. Compton from our Capital Projects Department. You'll see on your agenda that it says it's a project termination and transfer of a Glen McConnell multi-use path. What that means to this city and this council is that this project is going to move forward, and it's going to be rolled in with the county Chats COG project that's going on in that part of town over there by Glen McConnell. It's a multi-use path that is actually going to be led by the COG and the county with state dollars and federal dollars, so we as a city are not actually putting our match in there. That match will be available for other projects. So this project is going to move forward. It actually is going to be expanded and enhanced, although we don't have the details yet. Committee voted unanimously to transfer this project over, and I would ask for approval of this report.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? And that transfer is for a project on Sanders Road.
Sanders Road, that's correct.
That will help connect East Ferry with the citizens along Sanders Road, but importantly, the future connection with West Ashley High School, the new West Ashley County Library, and the new West Ashley Middle School that will be built there along Sanders Road. All right. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, our Committee on Ways and Means, Councilmember White.
Second.
We have a move for adoption and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have bills up for second reading. We have the annexation of 17.13 acres on Bees Ferry Road, and then kind of accompanying that, number 2 is the rezoning or the zoning of that property to limited business. Councilmember Griffin.
I just want to make it clear to Mr. Mayor and City Council that I'll be voting no on this tonight. This project is bad for our residents for many reasons. Number one, the traffic that it's going to create with no assistance to future infrastructure is lackluster. Number two, the increase in density it's going to create to go from 4 single-family detached units in the county industrial zoning to 19 units per acre and limited business in the city. We already have 400 units coming to the Bees Ferry area. Finally, this is bad for Plan West Ashley. The apartments will take away an amazing opportunity to get businesses in a part of a town where we desperately need it. 84% of West Ashley residents work elsewhere. We need cars to be traveling to the site for work and commercial opportunities. This property is currently in the county, and there has been little to no dialogue between the county and the developer. No PUD. This project should not move forward, and I ask council to join me in voting no.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to agree, first of all, with everything that Councilman Griffin just said, but I'd like for you to understand that the Glen McConnell Parkway is a parking lot in the mornings, okay? You barely move through there. A lot of these people on Bees Ferry Road, if this becomes 273 apartments, we're going to be adding a ton of traffic where we can't handle the traffic that we have right now. Now, a lot of people, to avoid Glen McConnell Parkway, will cut through Carolina Bay as well. And they'll go all the way through Carolina Bay, winding through roads, all the way up through Rutherford. A lot of those neighbors are tired of it. We've got all this traffic coming through there, tons and tons of traffic coming through their front yards where these homes are built very, very close to the road. And this is going to add to that congestion that's coming through that Carolina Bay area as well. We have, obviously, we've got other subdivisions that have already been approved there that are coming up when we're talking about Long Savannah and we're talking about Harmony, that once this moratorium is lifted, we're going to add to the problems. This is gridlock already. Now, I understand we're going to be widening Glen McConnell. It's going to take a while. That traffic's going to get worse before it gets better. This, Councilman Griffin hit on West Ashley revitalization. There was a couple of things done in that West Ashley revitalization. We had public comment that started out West Ashley revitalization. There were meetings at West Ashley High School and Bees Landing. In those meetings, their main concerns, obviously we have flooding issues in Church Creek Basin, but their other issues were the traffic concerns and the overdevelopment. Our citizens were concerned about residential development that's happening there. Another thing that comes out of the West Ashley Revitalization Committee is that there was a study done, and Dover Coal helped with this. We talked about 84% of people moving out of West Ashley to go to work. A big idea that they had was to put businesses right in this location where we have, where this property is. It would be a great location to have some type of offices or some type of commercial development there. It would be perfect. This is a business zoning, and it should be. This should not be a residential zoning. And so I'm going to ask my other council members to please vote against this.
I'm going to vote against this in support of the council members whose districts obviously are directly impacted by this. But I wanted to also just quickly commend really the new council members in taking really a stance on a position of not being concerned with the profitability of projects, but concerned with the overall impact it has on their neighborhood in the future. And you're right, there's no answer for traffic improvements. There's no answer for infrastructure. We already have flooding. So taking a stance and saying that we are going to move forward as a city and collectively in a manner that doesn't take into consideration the profitability of development, but takes consideration of the viability and livability of our city in the future. And I think that's the right direction. I got to commend you guys, newest council members, for taking that position. I think that's great, and I'm going to support you on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I've had several discussions with my colleagues on this issue, and I'm going to support them, obviously, on their concerns with this. The points brought out are right in sync with the plan West Ashley, which we've approved. One of the main issues about traffic in West Ashley is that not only are people commuting back and forth for work projects, going to work, but the other issue is places to go. Commercial needs, as Councilmember Shealy had just pointed out. So this is inconsistent, I think, with the overall plan for Plan West Ashley. My personal feeling is that we should annex every parcel of land that is in West Ashley into the city of Charleston. My only concern is making sure that we don't backdoor this, that the owner does not get a zoning approval for what he's attempting to do with the city now. So that's my only reservation about this, and I've talked to my colleagues about it. So I'm comfortable that we should vote against this project. Thank you.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yes, I can easily agree with my West Ashley new member colleagues as well as senior colleagues. I don't know why we wouldn't first turn to a brand new master plan before we would consider an aggressive residential project like this. So I very much appreciate the fact that that's the reasoning. I support the revitalization plan that tries to balance out commercial with residential. We need to think of this entire region as one opportunity to make sure that our citizens are not driving, 45 minutes, an hour and a half to get to work. And that's an uphill battle. Everyone knows that it's very hard to entice developers to come in and build commercial when they can take the easy way of building residential, make money for themselves, talk the community into having good-looking residential neighborhoods, but at the expense of the long-term solutions that our community is now crying for and involving themselves, as the citizens said tonight. So we're asking for citizen involvement. We had the revitalization plan that was the epitome of an amazingly good process for all of that. So I think we have no choice, and we would proudly do ourselves proud to vote no on this proposal. Thank you.
Last council, I asked this to be deferred so these two gentlemen could get a briefing from the developers' representative. And they've gotten it, and they have come up with their decision. It is definitely in District 5. And what this council agrees on is fine with me. All of Bolton's Landing is totally residential, both sides. The original plan in Bolton was apartments. And we just had another set that I didn't even know till I saw them up on the Savannah Highway side. This one's down on the Beachberry side, right on the corner. All the traffic from Grand Oaks, all the traffic from everywhere out there comes through Carolina Bay, period. It was part of the interconnectivity the planning department, Joe Riley, set in motion about, 8-10 years ago. I mean, that's part of it. We saw on TNT today a little plan which showed the path for the bicycles and the walking, and it goes right through the middle. About 3 years ago, up on my corner, right at Marginal Road, Savannah Highway, and Carolina Bay Drive, they put out 320 units, which are still under construction right now, called 17 South. At that point in time, I said, not in my backyard. I became a NIBBY. Well, they're just about full now. And I get to sit and wait in my corner for about 3 or 4 stoplights before I can get out of my street, which is a half mile from Highway 17. So, is there any way, if we're going to say no to this, that we can block off the main road that's coming in off of Sanders Road into Carolina Bay so I can get out of my driveway occasionally too? I mean, it's just a thought. I mean, and most of y'all have been to my house. You know exactly what I'm talking about and where I live. And it's a nice wide passageway there. So I'm going to move for approval. Y'all feel free to vote any way you want to. You're not going to hurt my feelings at all. Yeah, I want to make that motion, yes. I mean, we've talked about it before we got there, yeah? Yes, and you feel free to vote any way you want to. My feelings will not be hurt. I just needed to say that.
We have a motion to approve, do we have a second? No, I didn't second it.
Or it just dies. It just... No, you don't need to. It'll die. It'll just die. You can. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just very briefly, I do echo what Councilmember White said. I mean, it's tough when you come into this arena. There's a lot going on around you. You're a young council member. You're in an area that's flooding and developed, and there's all sorts of things going on, and it's really a lot. I mean, I can tell you the days when we started wasn't like this, and so Councilmember White got his 10-year pin today. 10 years ago, it was a whole different world. So welcome to the new world. Let me just sort of a little bit of a cautionary tale and the problems with shared border development in an area that floods, that is dense, that is growing, and that there's lots of traffic. By not annexing in this property, it's not going to fix all of our woes out there, as you all know. We're still flooding. We're going to continue to flood. So we're going to lose any say we have on this property when it comes to flooding. I suspect, I don't know this because I haven't sat with the county yet, but I think you all young council members are going to have your next job will be to do this. I don't know what's going to happen to this property. It's going to get developed in the county. Something's going to get developed there. And it's not going to be something that doesn't create traffic, so we're going to have more traffic issues. So again, tough issue along a shared border that's already dense, that's already got lots of issues along it, so we got to keep an eye on it. I'm going to support y'all. This is your part of the world. I think we got to really look big picture here and get with the county and figure out what this is all going to look like, particularly when it comes to flooding and to traffic. Those are just two things. Those are two things that we really need to get after. So.
On his motion.
Oh. We have a second to the motion. Councilmember Waring, Ian, and
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we need to bring in another entity here. I know the county is interested in creating employment nodes, if you will, and this is one where one could occur. Out in that area, you have people living and in some cases playing, but they don't have a place they can work, hence the traffic problem. The county is trying to create job creation off of these ferry roads. And I believe if it stayed in the county, that's what, according to Chairman Rawl anyway, that he's going to try to push for, which would be a good complement to this area. So that's why I'm going to, I will vote against, because I do believe employment is a type of zoning or commercial zoning needs to be placed there in the event that jobs can be created for people in the surrounding areas. Thank you.
I did reach out to the county on this issue. I talked to Chairman Rawl about this, and I talked to the county planning department. The developer has not made any attempt to approach them about this development at all, so he has a lot of hurdles to jump through before he gets to that point. And I also want to make it, for the record, known that Bolton's Landing is against this property. So this property has a lot of hoops to jump through, and I think we can cautiously watch it for a while and see where it goes on the county side.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar to what Keith said, Councilman Waring said, but I also want to let you know that we've got great county councilmen on our county council that are great West Ashley people, and Vic Rawl and Ted Pryor and Brantley Moody, and those guys really care, and it's exactly what Councilman, what you were saying just a minute ago, Councilman Waring, they're going to protect West Ashley, and they are. Councilman Moody served on that committee with the West Ashley revitalization. He knows how important this is. So I have full trust in what the county will do on this.
More over and above just this one specific project, but I think this is the appropriate time to make sure that we're all being mindful that the city of Charleston's diversity of uses gets limited by the impact financially that developers have and are encouraged on what they develop. So a lot of times we say we've got a lot of hotel rooms. Well, it's because there's a lot of money in the subdivision right now. Well, we've got a lot of apartment complexes. It's because there's a lot of money in the apartment complexes. But at some point, people are going to turn around and that profit margin will change. And it'll be something else, and we'll end up with a lot of those. It is incumbent upon this body to use its discretion in making sure that we can plan appropriately for our city. And the one way we do it is by effective zoning on sites. And so tonight, we did a lot of rezonings for MU2. And if you look back at how many sites we changed to mixed use workforce housing, it's a tremendous, overwhelming amount. And I would just again say and reiterate, I think this is important that although we're not city planners per se, we need to become city planners. We have to understand how our city has developed, and we can't continuously change zoning of property because it's for the best interest of a developer and their profit margins. It's our responsibility to make sure that we're doing what the people elected us to do, and that is make the right decisions for our city, irregardless of the financial outcome of property owners. And so, again, I know that it's not specific to this issue, but I do think that it's important for us to all remember that's what we're charged to do. And I'll also say that the concept of work zones and nodes, if you will, is not only important in West Ashley, but it's important in Johns Island, in James Island, in Daniel Island, and in Cane Hoy. I don't like the word that I've heard used several times, and that's boroughs, because we are one city, and I don't like boroughs, but I can tell you we have to start looking and thinking about our city with regards to the fact that we have to have work centers in and around the places where people live. It can't be that 84% of the citizens of an area have to get in a car to go somewhere to work. That's not the right way to do it. And the state has no plan for improving our road system. We have no money that's been identified to do it. It's incumbent upon us to do the small things we can do to help traffic, and public transportation and bike lanes and all those things can help, but creating work zones inside of these areas in our city so that people don't have to get in their car and travel to work an hour a day on both sides of the day, that's the thing we can do. And that's the things that we must do, in my opinion. Thank you.
Testing, is that better? Okay, so this matter first came before us when we were meeting in West Ashley, I believe, at the schoolhouse over there. And I want to say that generally speaking, we welcome properties to come into the city. And in some cases, we even annex to help protect and preserve important parts of our city, like out Highway 61. And but obviously we all jointly, and Councilmember White, you were so right. We are the civic designers for the city of Charleston collectively, and have to keep that in mind. And there's a great sensitivity now to development that I don't think this council, or former councils had 10 and 20 and 30 years ago. It was like, somebody wants to annex in the city, great, let's bring them in. And so the question we asked 3 meetings ago, after being presented with the annexation, well, what are you going to do with the property? And at that point, we didn't even get a clear answer. We had to have another meeting just before they would bring back the proposal that they wanted to put an apartment complex on the property. And understanding that we have a great sensitivity everywhere about drainage, but particularly in Church Creek Basin, and a great sensitivity about traffic. So those two factors play into whatever we envision to be developed. But if you put aside the drainage and traffic issues for just a second, Bees Ferry Road is a commercial corridor, and could and should play that role of being a source of jobs and services to the many citizens that live nearby. We can't have residential everywhere. And from my point of view, the appropriate use, I mean, again, holding drainage and traffic concerns aside for just a minute, appropriate use for properties along Beach Ferry ought to be businesses that offer employment and services to our many citizens that live in neighborhoods all around there, so they don't have to get in their car, like you say, and drive back into town to, you know, shop or go to the dry cleaners or whatever. So we welcome the city, the property to come into the city at some point. We're more concerned about the use that's being proposed at the property, in my view. And that brings up another issue that I planned with the work of staff to bring to council at our next meeting. And that is a redefinition of what limited business and general business and light industrial zoning actually mean. They ought to be for limited business and general business and light industrial, and not for 19 residential units per acre or 26 residential units per acre. If somebody buys a property or wants it to be limited business, it ought to be for business. It ought to, if it's a duck, it ought to quack, right? And and so I propose to bring to you at our next meeting, or maybe the one following, as soon as we can get to work together, a reduction of density for residential use and business zoning, similar to what we did at the Folly Overlay District, so that our zonings are in sync with what the real use is. And we'll have multifamily zoning. If somebody wants to build an apartment complex and we decide as civic designers that that's a good place for an apartment complex, it ought to be a multi-use, it ought to be a multifamily type zoning or mixed use that allows multifamily zoning. So anyway, I just want to share with you that that's coming down the pike, and no offense to your clients or to the property. We'd love at some point to have it come into the city as long as we all agree on a good use for the property. All right, that being said, the motion is to accept the annexation and the zoning to limited business, and it was seconded. Councilmember Lewis.
I really want to thank you. I want to thank Councilmember White, and I want to thank the new council members, because I've been crying from the time we annexed Long Savannah, way before all of your time, before we annexed Long Savannah into the city, to take a look at what annexations can do if you don't annex the property the right way. I mean, all the developers years ago looking at annex and making money, but not looking at what it's going to do to our infrastructure, what it's going to do to the traffic, what it's going to do to flooding.
Yes, sir.
And I tell you what, we got a good council here now, because we're really thinking. And I am certainly happy to see that we are talking with somebody saying, a lot of time I vote against things, people think that, well, he's just crazy, he's just voting against this. I know y'all laugh at me every meeting. You just did when you know my stance on the School of Building Arts. Okay, but you know, that's the way I see things. But thank you, brighter minds. You know, old man like me, I'm getting old now. So you got to, you know, depend on younger minds like you. So.
All right.
But I appreciate
it.
And we are planners, and we have a responsibility to the citizens of this city. And you heard me say it last week when I talk about the short-term rental, how my feeling about planning, and how about all this ugly-looking houses that they built in the west side and Gadsden Green area and Hughie Street, these big tall houses. If City Council really had some say so on some of the stuff that was approved, these neighborhoods wouldn't look the way that they look today. So thank you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, all in favor to approve the annexation, say aye. Got one aye.
I've never been beat 12-1 before.
Are you voting aye?
I'm voting aye.
Sir?
I'm going to vote for it. Yes, sir. I brought it up.
Okay, we got one vote for. All opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Nay. All right, the nays have it.
Yeah. The aye. Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Mr. Mayor. Motion to deny.
Do we need a motion to deny?
Well, it's still out there.
No. We denied the notion to approve.
Okay.
I think that does it, doesn't it, Francis?
Whoa, too late.
Okay. What was that motion?
Who made the motion? Thank you. To deny. Did you say to deny?
I couldn't hear you, Francis. I'm sorry.
The motion was to approve it, and that was denied. It stays on the agenda until somebody makes a motion to get it off the agenda by way of rejection.
Okay.
Make a motion to remove it.
This would apply to items number 1 and 2, both the annexation and the rezoning.
We could...
Of the zoning. Yeah.
You took both of them at the same time. One and two.
Right. They're related.
Can we still withdraw the motion?
We have a motion on the floor to deny it. Right. Number 1.
Both items 1 and 2.
Yeah. And do we have a second? We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor to remove 1 and 2, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay.
No, I'm good.
Bills up for second reading, number 1 and 2 have been removed. We have one bill up for first reading. It's a
Move for approval.
rezoning of 5th Avenue and Diana Street, where I believe someone wants to build a single-family home. We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have a request to have an executive session to have a legal update on potential litigation regarding business licenses for online travel.
3 council members that are being excused.
We have 3 council members being excused, being Gregory, Moody, and Waring. And we still, I believe, want to have an executive session, and we can conduct that in my office very briefly. I believe it will only take 5 or 10 minutes, maybe just 5 minutes. Okay? Can I have a motion?
Move that we go into executive session.
We have a motion going in executive session. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. So folks, there'll be no other business conducted when we get back that we expect. So, but you can take your time clearing out because we're going to meet across the hall.